Well, I certainly see it growing. We're facing these workforce shortages now, and you're seeing some people moving out of technology because technology is part of civil engineering. And it's better if you're going to get involved in technology, do it with a purpose. Like you're going to do it to have an outcome, and the outcome is the infrastructure that we need, the civilization that we need to serve humanity.
Hey, folks. Thanks to what I'm going to frame as a special edition of the 21st Century Engineer podcast. As you know, we talk a lot about mid level and early career engineers and people that want to be engineers, civil infrastructure, particularly. And I can't think of a more important person to invite on than our guest today. Tom Smith has been with the American Society of Civil Engineers for the better part of 3 decades. And during those 3 decades, I've worked in various capacities alongside Tom, and he supported me in a number of things that I've done at ASCE. His last 11 years has been as executive director, and he's been quite impactful in the results that he's achieved. He's dedicated his career, much like many of us, to this profession, not just earning a living from the career, but trying to give back to that profession and make sure that it becomes better. He's left an indelible mark in areas such as sustainability, diversity, infrastructure, economic development. And a term that I started using back really as a result of my work with Tom was the idea of being a servant leader. Tom exemplifies this. And as such, in as much as he's reluctantly for me, I'm sure he's celebrating, has decided to retire from ASCE in the executive director's position. I wanted to give you an opportunity to meet Tom firsthand. Many of you have, most of you probably have not. And he's a good person to know or to know of. And for that, Tom, thank you very, very much for agreeing to do this. I know you're busy this last month that you're working at ASCE as an employee, or arguably an employee, volunteer. I know your plans to continue in that role, volunteer. Is there anything that I missed, or is there anything you'd like to add so that our guests have a perspective of who you are and what you're about before we start the podcast?
Well, just thank you, Dennis, for those kind words. I mean, it's been a pleasure for me to kind of watch you and your career and the things that you've done and accomplished at ASCE as a tremendous leader here. I remember when we were sitting down talking about you just contemplating running for president. And here we are, that's, in the rearview mirror now. It's just hard to believe. And
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure and honor to work with you. And you're one example of so many people here at ASCE that are just thousands of actively engaged members and civil engineers, these kind of salt to the earth, conscientious people who have led this organization and made it what it is, and really has moved the profession forward and moved ASCE forward so far since when I first started here. And I'm usually I'm in the background, and I'm a huge cheerleader for a lot of the folks that like Dennis who have led this organization. And it's just been an honor to do what I have done, working with y'all.
Well, and it is a profession, and as professionals, it's about others, not us. It's about giving. And in that regard, you've obviously drank the Kool-Aid, as have I, in my maybe a different flavor. And here we are today. I guess to get started, Tom, you are a civil engineer. You came up through the educational system that produces people that go off and build great things. I'll frame it in a broad sense that way. And then you took a right turn and became an attorney. And and I have friends also have done. I've had former students that did exactly the same thing. So I can be more impactful if I understand the law and how to apply it in the context of engineering. And then somewhere along the line, again, you drank the Kool-Aid and have dedicated yourself to ASC. What are your reflections on how did this all transpire? Is it something that other people can look for in their maturity as they grow, or is it something they need to watch out for?
No, there's so many different paths. I mean, no path is the same, if even for civil engineers, and for me, I had stayed for a master's degree, and I wanted to be, a structural engineer, but I had a number of friends in law school, and I was, maybe it's a little example about the need for kind of the well-rounded education. And if there's one thing that we've been stressing is not just the technical skills, but the power skills, the people skills.
Right.
And so I felt like I needed more of that. And I had an interest of just sort of the legal world is just something that I had always been interested in. And so it ended up for me being a really great combination because I practice
Yep.
land use law, and I still sit on our zoning appeals board here, and I'm just very like to be engaged in the community in that with that and from that perspective. But I got involved in land use and construction related litigation, and always working with civil engineers. When I was in law school, I wrote law review articles, one on the Clean Water Act, one on mechanics liens for design professionals. So you can see, one of those is published, and so I was always trying to connect law and engineering. And so I maintained my membership in ASCE. I've been a member since I was in my student chapter at University of Virginia, and it's been an incredible asset and an incredible community my entire career. And so then next thing you know, back in 1997, ASCE was relocating from New York down to Virginia. Remember, we sold the United Engineering Center, which we owned with the five founder societies, the mechanicals, the electricals,
Right.
the chemicals, and the miners. And we sold that building to Donald Trump. And we then moved here and we bought this headquarters building here in Reston, Virginia.
Right.
And it was an opportunity for me. I was having kids, and I thought, man, this is a chance I could make a change and see if it works. And I came in as general counsel, and I've been here ever since. And it's been again, it's been an honor and privilege.
Oh, it's been our honor and privilege. It's been as I say that as a member of ASC. And by the way, for full disclosure, I have a path similar to what, never an attorney, but I started at and have remained a member of ASC ever since my college days, albeit my college days were down the street at Virginia Tech. And so
Well,
go
one of my kids went there, and I've got one that went to Virginia as well. So I have a great affinity for Virginia Tech. No question about the Hokies.
okay. I always like to have a conversation, at least in part, about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I guess I'm going to ask you in a few moments, what's the best thing you've ever seen or been part of as far as ASCE and your roles at ASCE? Uh, in the same regard, what's the worst thing
Well,
that
it's hard to say, well, what's the best thing? I mean, the best thing, when I came to ASCE from practicing law, and especially with the litigation side, where you're constantly battling with people and you're constantly trying to posture and get an advantage, and one side wins and one side loses,
yeah.
and you're drowning the other side in paper and interrogatories and trying to figure out how you can get an advantage, and you're zealously representing your client, and you're sometimes forgetting that ultimately what's the public good here and justice. And when you get to ASCE, it's all about public health, safety, and welfare, and it's everybody pulling together. So in terms of the good, it's watching the teamwork and the community of an organization like ASCE, where, well, yes, we all have silos. You might be in structurals and mechanicals, or you might be in Boston versus Sacramento, and we all have silos because we're individuals, but we really are pulling together as one ASCE. And so the level of teamwork and community, that is the big positive experience here. There's a ton of individual things that happen. This organization has done, since I've been here. I mean, the report cards we have released, and we've been doing this. I've been at every single report card release since we started in 1998. And
Right.
I've watched how our grades have gone from the D's, into the C's. Like in 2021, we brought it up to a C minus. That was progress. In 2025, this year, our report card brought it up to a C. Dennis, you were there when we had the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding, and you were on the White House lawn with the president
Right.
representing ASCE. And we were told by multiple legislators they could not have done that without ASCE. Our report card is what brought that to light. And
Yep.
so, we those are tremendous. You talk about the good; those are tremendous accomplishments. I mean, dream big, cities of the future. ASCE 73, the standard that we just released, within the last couple of years on sustainable infrastructure, that was extremely difficult to get over the finish line. It took tons of people pulling together to get that
Amen.
done. The things we've done with our publications, digitizing all of our content back to the 1800s. Then just this year, releasing two new AI tools. So, large language models that you can use, with our standards and with our Collaborate system.
Right.
So there's
Right.
just so many, global, the accomplishments we've had on global. Guna, who is now the president-elect of the World Federation of Engineering Organizations.
Yeah.
We've pulled together the engineering community thanks to a grant from the United Engineering Foundation. We got so the electricals and the mechanicals and others together to support this effort, and we were all brought that across the finish line. When that was a huge accomplishment to have Guna representing us. So he'll be the president of that World Federation, representing 90 million engineers worldwide.
Right. Right.
So it's there's just a lot that I think we're certainly very proud of. The impact of Dream Big is, by the time it's done, it will have reached 20 million people worldwide. It played, and you may recall, a member in 10 languages in 39 countries.
Right.
Cities of the Future is having a similar trajectory. It's playing around the world now, and that's a way that we're really starting to talk not just to ourselves, but we're getting the word out much more broadly to the broader public. And I think that's one of the things we've, in the past we didn't do so well, and we still don't do it as well as we need to. We still talk to ourselves more than we talk to others about the great things that we do. We have a tendency, as you know, Dennis, to be in the headlines when there are issues, but we're forgotten when there are no issues, when everything's functioning fine. But we've made progress, and so I'm certainly there's a lot of positive reflections, good accomplishments that we can look back on.
Yeah. It's a shame that ASCE has been so ineffective. Uh, no, in all seriousness, I'm going to frame what you just said or amplify what you just said. The world we live in today would be a different place if ASCE hadn't engaged in trying to make change. And I think, to me, that's the greatest success and the greatest reward for supporting ASCE through volunteer activities, gifts to the foundation, paying my dues, and all the rest. These are all opportunities. And I think, by and large, the organization, the society, CAPAS, as I often say, for grammar purposes, is that the society has been a good steward of the gifts given, whether it be monetary or human resource. And large part of that stewardship is the result of your leadership.
It's a result of the people that we have that are. I think they're unique. We're a unique association. I think
We're
the
civil
level
engineers. we're a different cat anyway.
the level of volunteer effort that we have in this organization, I've not seen it at other associations. And we
Yeah.
have folks who are willing to do. You can't sometimes it's try to differentiate a staff person from a volunteer, because the volunteers are so actively engaged, and they're so conscientious. It really is remarkable. And so we've been able to do a lot because of the workforce that we have. We've got, as you know, Dennis, we've got over 200 people on the staff team. I was shocked. I remember when I was in school, I had no idea that there was even that kind of infrastructure behind an association like ASCE, but it's a large operation. But then
Right.
we've got 10,000 or, active volunteers who are engaged in so many different ways.
Right.
So it's
Right.
a huge workforce.
I know when I was president, the thing that amazed me and that I often touted was going back to staff, because they can't be discounted. They need to be recognized. Just all staff, top to bottom, is the number of staff members who, for no reason other than commitment to what ASCE is about, have joined the organization. There's a lot of staff that show up at other organizations because it's a job, and I'll do the job I'm handed. But our staff shows up because they believe in the mission and goals and activities of ASCE, and they demonstrate that by becoming members in whatever capacity they can. And I think that speaks a lot about what the organization has been and will be. Of course, we're always talking about the future, and that's part of it. Let's
Can I say one thing real quick, Dennis, about the staff?
absolutely,
Because you
absolutely.
just hit on, I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And people, I don't think, realize sometimes the depth and breadth of the staff team. We have staff here, we've got I don't know, certainly over 15 professional engineers. We've got, I don't know how many people who are certified
Right.
as either certified association executives or envision sustainability professionals, or we've got certifications in human resources and publications, you name it, or IT or project management. We've got people here who speak multiple languages, come from a variety of different
Thank
countries.
goodness.
We have people working from 18 different states, but there's an incredible diversity. And if you look at some of the degrees that people have here, and the backgrounds and educational and work experience, there is just a huge amount of depth on the staff team. So there really does take a lot of experts, whether it's publications or IT or tech or engineering, or law, or again, human resources, that makes this place go.
Publications is an animal unto itself. The research arm of ASC is an animal
Continuing
unto itself.
education, yeah,
The
absolutely,
education
absolutely.
piece, yeah, it's a. I mean, civil engineers are a strange cat anyway, but we got a bag of cats when we get into all of this. And I say that, and everybody knows. I mean, literally everybody ever seen the podcast knows I'm a dog person. So anyway, uh, but it is what it is. I'm going to flip the script just a little bit, Tom, and I kind of suggested I was going to ask you one question. I'm going to run this a different direction. Where do you see the civil engineering profession 30 years from now? You've kind of covered, and we talked about the progress of the past 30 years, your career,
Yeah.
our career, in many ways. Now the question is, as we transition out of positions of authority and become volunteers and active supporters in different ways, where are we going to be 30 years from now? Let's grab the snapshot. 2055, 2060. Where do you see the profession?
Well, I certainly see it growing. We're facing these workforce shortages now, and you're seeing some people moving out of technology because technology is part of civil engineering. And it's better if you're going to get involved in technology, do it with a purpose. Like you're going to do it to have an outcome, and the outcome is the infrastructure that we need, the civilization that we need, to serve humanity, and to do it in a way that harmonizes with the national environment. So as we're looking forward, I see us facing more and more of these extreme weather events. We're seeing, look at
Right.
the NOAA data on the $1 billion, disasters, like 27 of them, with last year. And,
Yeah.
and so, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're seeing those steadily increasing. Obviously population continues to increase, and we have infrastructure that's being strained. So you're going to have more and more need for civil engineers, more and more workforce challenges, and more need to draw people into this profession, more use of technology. Obviously, I mean, we've got AI is a tremendous focus here, and has been for a number of years. We've had an AI driven newsletter for years, as you know, with the source, and we've
Right.
got new AI tools that are being rolled out, and new, task forces coming together to work on that. But if you look at the future world vision, remember, you're saying,
Yep.
let's look out 30 years. Well, we kind of did that. We looked at what are the scenarios facing the planet, and what are the key ones that we think are going to be facing our profession and humanity. And we narrowed those down. And then we tried to figure out what do we think the world's going to look like as a consequence of that. So we've done a number of things to look at, like renewable energy and smart cities and high tech construction. And obviously, policy and funding is always a key issue. So we've been preparing and evaluating, what do these different scenarios look like, and building virtual reality tools so you can immerse yourself into these future worlds, and then doing IMAX films. You can see Cities of the Future up there. You can see that in IMAX theaters now. So we're really trying to think about the future always, and we're designing infrastructure, as you know, Dennis, that's 75, 100-year design lives. And so we have to be looking like that at that far out. And we're teaming up with NOAA and NIST and other agencies to make sure that we're connecting the science and the engineering and pulling that into our standards, so that we're looking at least 30 years out, often quite a bit more.
Well, in the collaboration with our sibling associations and societies, and both as a support and as a leader of the activities of the others involved in the broader civil infrastructure, broader human impact professions, such as, well, you named them, I'll leave it go there. I think that's an important piece too. So, to boil it down, basically what you're saying is in 2055, it's going to be a better life.
I think so. And the other thing we've been preparing, Dennis, as we talk about AI, it's like we've been digitizing our content back to the 1800s, as you know, and we've got millions of pages of content that we have developed, and we have, with our journals and standards and proceedings and manuals of practice and just articles and not to mention discussion forums. And so you got an enormous amount of content that's validated and verified, and that's quality, trustworthy content, as opposed to some of the other things that AI is that some of these tools are picking up across the internet today. So we've got an incredible knowledge base that we now need to responsibly maintain and utilize and make available to our to the engineering community. So that's one of the things think we'll be doing more and more of over the coming years, is figuring out how to better equip engineers so that they can be successful. And as we are stressed on workforce issues, we've got to be continuously looking at being more efficient and getting more out of the infrastructure we have, and looking at life cycle and looking at the systems approach, like how does this all this infrastructure relate to each other, and how do we eliminate the sort of the weak link in the chain. And so we're really getting more knowledgeable and looking at our infrastructure as an asset that has to be managed over a lifespan, and not just looking at upfront costs. So all of those are things that ASCE is preparing for, so that we can equip engineers to be successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And more. Who knows what we'll have to take on, the society will have to take on 5 years from now.
That we
Yeah.
haven't even thought of. But we didn't know there was a pandemic coming several years back, and that was a
A
huge
perfect
game changer
example.
for
Yeah.
us.
And the profession and the society adapted to the constraints and opportunities that environment changed a lot of the way the organization operates, the way the profession operates.
It
And
it it wa it did. You were heavily involved at that time, because you were
yeah,
coming in at the tail end of your presidency, and we were evolving to where we were more inclusive. We were able to engage our international members and people who were didn't have the time or the money to travel at the level that we had in the past, and so we found better ways to engage them. Look how you and I are engaging right now.
right.
And while we were starting to do that before the pandemic, it just really catapulted us and accelerated everything.
And it'll be interesting to see what drives it to make that next leap in technological application. You hear a lot about AI. The company I work with now is AI focused and looking at opportunities to apply it to advance civil infrastructure, the careers of those involved in that. Not an advertisement, but that is what we're doing.
No, that's great.
But the point is that the way we go about doing business may well change too. The idea of having to work at the same thing day in and day out can be soul killing particularly the Gen Zs. Gen X didn't like it. Gen Y or millennials kind of put up with it. Gen Zs are rebelling against it, and so our our workplace is changing. Is going to have to change and is changing in most places. And again, if we do this right, it'll be for the better. We'll be more creative, more inclusive, more sustainable, more impactful in what comes out of the efforts of the professionals that call themselves civil engineers. And
Absolutely.
yeah, ASC certainly is supporting that through its standards, through the data that the digitizing of the data to me is just such a huge thing, because now all of a sudden it is available. I don't have to go to Reston and sit down in the library. I can go online. And it's like getting rid of the card Rolodex in the university libraries. I can sit at my office and do a search to see what documents are available. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Tom, the role of for me, and this is I'm not trying. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, I think the real opportunity in our profession lies in our young engineers. That these are the individuals who are not bounded by, well, it worked before, so let's do it again. They're not bounded by the concepts of the past 100 years, but are looking to the next 100 in terms of applying the new science, the new technology, the new approaches. And they're also, I think, more cognizant of some of the issues that 100 years ago we could ignore, like inclusiveness, like the idea that we can't build a civil infrastructure project without being respectful to the community or communities that it's placed in. that it can't just be a technical solution, it has to be a community solution. And so I guess, do you see that as a valid perspective? I'm always open to change. Well, not always, but anyway, talk to my wife. She says I'm never open to change. But is this, do you see that? Do you see ASCE addressing this? Is this something that I think, that as I think is an important thing to be addressed in terms of
Oh
workforce
yes,
development and all of it?
100%. Yes, no, couldn't agree more. I think we're going to have to be able to address issues like that and be, we have to be, as you mentioned, be an inclusive profession and provide different pathways to get here. And we need to make sure that we're open and welcoming to everybody. We recognize that we're serving 8 billion people around the planet. And ASCE is serving just its members, 160,000 plus 165,000 people around the world as well in 177 countries. That
Right,
means you've got different cultures, you've got different experiences, different languages, different races, national origin. I mean, you name it, we're all different all around the world.
right.
But civil engineering is a constant. And sustainable development goals and our need for clean water and transportation and shelter and food and all these things that we need our infrastructure to help provide, that's a constant as well. So we have got to be absolutely, this idea of inclusivity and recognizing that an association is built on inclusivity, of course, and it's
Right.
also built on diversity. I mean, there's just a totally diverse perspective, even for those of us from different counties, different states, different countries. We think a little bit differently, or we have different perspectives, we have different accents, and so ASCE is, in order to solve our workforce problems, we've got to be completely inclusive and recognizing that. And that means also, even like you're so involved in licensure, Dennis, I mean, this making sure that your license can translate from state to state, and then much
Or
less
country to country.
certifications. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, country to country. That's why global certifications like like we have here at ASCE, those are very important. And
Yes.
so our civil engineering certification program is increasingly, it's growing, and they're adding new certifications. I know
Right.
you're a DWRE, I guess, board
Yes.
certified.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important for us, and then also reaching out to the K through 12. When you talk about the younger community, we're actively engaged with the Future Cities competition, where we have over 60,000 middle and high school students around the world who participate in that. I got to judge the high school competition this year, and it was incredible when you see like how bright the future is. And they're looking at it much more, as you mentioned, Dennis, with a blank slate as opposed to being wedded to
Yeah.
what we've done in the past, and that's
Right.
really, really exciting.
That was I go back to my freshman year in college where we were assigned a self-selected person of four, a team of four, excuse me, was assigned a project, and it was a blue sky, green grass, go forth and design a solution to this problem. And it was like, well, what has been tried? Oh no, we're not going to limit you by what has tried and failed. We want you to go out and brainstorm this into reality. Of course, we never built the project, but that idea of I'm not limited by what people did in the past. The technology changed, the opportunities changed. As you said at the beginning, with all the changes that are going on in the planet, simply applying 19th century or early 20th century technology to solve the problems of the 21st century is a waste of energy and resources. We have to do better. Life cycle you mentioned, we've got to build structures that last 100 years, not 50. We've got to respect the water resources and other environmental resources that are becoming increasingly limited as our population grows. And even if our population doesn't continue to grow, which there's some debate about that, the demands on those resources because of inappropriate stewardship or lack of stewardship is something that we are responsible for. We have, even if we're not directly responsible, we have to be able to communicate to the peoples. We have to be those, again, leaders. And I looked at the young people particularly to be subject area experts and come forward and say, this is a better way. This is an opportunity that didn't exist. And as an environmental engineer, 30 years ago, we would have never talked about on-site wastewater treatment and direct recycling.
Yep.
Today, with the advent of membranes and other treatment technology, totally doable. A self-sustaining, enclosed living structure. In fact, I used to talk a lot about the urban forest, the urban sequoia, where it basically grows and lives on its own. Uh,
Mhm.
a concept that isn't originated in the United States, but certainly could apply. That's super. That's
This,
absolutely
yeah,
great.
these simple questions like, yeah, like you talk about centralization versus decentralization. I mean, and why are we, flushing toilets with drinking water? I mean, just basic things that you might ask if you're looking at this, like coming in it cold and starting from scratch. And this question we always talk about in sustainability about, do the right project versus just how to do the project right. And just
Yes.
stepping back and saying, we want to move people more efficiently from point A to point B, but why are we moving people from point A to point B? Why did we design it this way? Maybe we should have designed it. Let's redesign it so we don't have to do that. And so,
I love it.
it's all kinds of fundamental, basic questions that we can ask and keep asking why, And so I think, and that's what kids do. And so I think when it's refreshing to go through, and go through some of these competitions at the K through 12 level because they ask a lot of those questions, and we need to too. And also, this issue of harmonizing with the natural environment is important too. ASC's, if you look at our vision and our strategic plan, engineered and natural systems work in harmony for the benefit of humanity. We've lost sight of that sometimes, and we just kind of
Yes.
come in and just mow everything over and clean it out and start afresh. But there are ways that you can harmonize with the natural environment that are better options, and they increase the quality of life for everybody,
Yeah.
human and non.
Yeah. Have a good friend who used to be the executive director of the state asphalt association. And back 30 years ago, he used to call himself, we're from the Pave the Earth Foundation. Uh, it was about
Yeah.
just build. It wasn't
And
about sustainability. It was about just build. And
Well, and we've got a 5 acre lot here at ASC headquarters, and we put in new
yes,
asphalt a few years ago, and we have asphalt that's mixed with crushed tires. We
right,
also mixed it in with a couple of different types of permeable pavers. We
right,
also took some of the pavement completely out. Because some of our parking regulations have changed here in Fairfax County, and so we've got some bioretention systems. So now the water gets treated on site, and we've added a lot of vegetation. And so that vegetation is also helping to treat the water. So less water is going off of our site and ultimately goes into Colvin Run, the Potomac River, the Chesapeake Bay. So we're doing our part, to send less water out, and the water that we're sending has a higher quality. The nitrogen and
right.
phosphorus, we're helping to remove that on site instead of worrying about sending it to a treatment center, it's a plant at some point. So there's a lot of things that can be done, and we all play a part, and it can happen at your house, whether you've got rain barrels and composting and things of that nature, and even the amount of impervious surface that you have, your energy sources. So we can all do our own part individually, and of course ASC is trying to make sure that we're educating the engineering community and the public so we can do it collectively.
Yeah. Sounds like ASC isn't just talking the talk, but is also walking the walk. And
That's the idea.
that's an important note as well. It's easy to be an apostle for something, but when you take it to heart and apply it at home, uh, that's impactful because the next generation will see that and consider that the standard rather than the opportunity, and build off of that standard to make things even better. So
Absolutely.
certainly the organization under your leadership, Tom, has had a number of really wonderful successes. I did want to come back just briefly and mention the current effort to focus on workforce development and the new committee that's being put together that President Marsh is talking about, and how that's getting worked out, focusing on outreach, attraction, and supporting careers of individuals, making sure they're educated in a way. Again, I've said this many times. I mean, the educational system that we civil engineers go through is based on a 1920s model that we were happy with when all the other professions said, no, this isn't good enough. And so
Right.
you ended up with a school of medicine, a school of dentistry, and a school of law, and a school of business, and a school of accountancy. And the architects drove off and modified what it was. And we sat back and said, if you want to, get a master's degree. And now what are we dealing with today? The federal government says civil engineering isn't a profession, architecture isn't a profession. And why do they say that? Because we don't have those schools that we go to, and we focus on the science, not on the application in those graduate programs, as opposed
Yeah.
to in those schools, they're presumably focused on the applications, and it's a different model.
Well, I'll mention on that because we'll be briefing the executive committee this week about a civil engineering industry and hyphen industry faculty engagement program.
Oh,
And
good.
so, yeah, and Dave Zombach, you probably know from Carnegie Mellon, as a distinguished member, active ASC member, and
Yeah, no,
he's helping to lead that. And we've got different organizations like Kiewit and Flatiron and Trailer Brothers, and that take someone to like someone from academia who could sit and take a sabbatical and really work in industry. And so it's developing that relationship. We've been working with the Beavers organization to help to promote this and be a pilot program next year. But things like that, so we can have career connected learning. In fact, I was just in a Discover E career connected learning summit last week, and we had a number of ASC members who spoke at that, and I was helping to organize that with Discover E. And the whole idea is how to career connected learning makes sense, but we
right,
got to think about how do we deliver that. And ASC is in this unique position because our members, we come from academia, industry, government
government,
sector, so
yeah,
we get it's all part of the ASC community.
yeah, again, it's being part of a diverse population of professionals that is conclusive of all flavors of what civil engineering is, and that's the advantage of having that openness to a diverse workforce, even if it's within our own halls, within our own walls. That's yeah,
Yeah.
that's great, and we'll move beyond that as time goes too, because the postgraduates or whatever they are. I, Footnote, I don't know if you're aware, and readers, nice try. Well, they may be reading a transcript. But anyway, but listeners would be aware. There was a recent ruling by the Supreme Court that upheld the Texas Supreme Court that basically said the Supreme Court in Texas is going to decide what an accredited law program is going to be. We're not going to look at ALA anymore. We're going to do it ourselves. So, what is it? I saw something online here recently talking about I don't have a civil engineering degree, but I'm a PE. And so the idea of having to get that degree and qualify is something that's being challenged on a daily basis. And the most of the people that are afraid of getting away from the traditional model are afraid because they don't know what the next model will be. Getting involved in developing a program that creates a robust process of preparing individuals to be professionals, technically and professionally, ethically.
Yeah.
It's something I think
Well,
ASD is wanting to do, and who knows? I'm going to be the rebel here and say, and it may mean we have to walk away from everybody else in order to do it right.
Well, you mentioned, I mean, the workforce work that's going on with our task force, and they just had an operational plan that our board approved in October, and we're
Right,
talking about ramping up our outreach activities, as you mentioned, Dennis. Encouraging pipelines and pathways to the profession, and then
right.
licensure is a big part of that. Strengthening recruitment and retention, improving skills development and education. So ASC is heavily involved on the licensure side. Obviously, we're heavily involved on the accreditation side, as you know, of course, Dennis. So those are all going to be important things so we figure out how to make this, increase the pathways to the profession and ensuring that we're maintaining the standards that are necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare.
Well, Tom, as invariably occurs, time comes, time goes, time runs out, and as much as I have always enjoyed our conversations, short or long, whether it was over a cup of coffee or a beer, your insights are always appreciated. Your dedication is and will be appreciated for long years to come. I feel myself blessed and lucky to call you a friend. You may not call me a friend, but I get to call you a
Likewise,
friend.
no,
I
no,
feel
that's
blessed
the
because
pleasure
I
is
do
mine.
that. But again, thank you for being here. Before I close everything out, the question is there anything we forgot? Anything you want to amplify or I hate to use the term, but I'm going to use it. Are there any parting words?
Well, I will mention, Dennis, you were there again with the signing of the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Yeah,
That's going to run its course at the end of 2026. So we've got a lot of advocacy work to do. So everybody's out here listening, become a key contact of ASCE. We
yep,
need everybody. We need all hands on deck here to make sure that we're getting that extended. Remember, we're spending a couple $1,000s a year just because of inefficient infrastructure today.
right.
If we don't extend that bipartisan infrastructure law and sustain that level of investment, much less than more that's needed, we're going to increase that bill. The hidden tax we pay is going to go up to at least $700 a year per family. So
Yeah,
we've got to really get everybody focused, and so we've got to. The technical work is so important. That's what ASC is here for. We drive very deep in all of our institutes, but we also got to remember, the professional skills, the people skills, communications, ethics, obviously at the heart of everything we do. But our advocacy work's important. So I just say, let's all stay together. My dad used to always say to my brothers and sisters and me, he's like, you guys go out there and stay together. So we all, as a civil engineering profession, have got to stay together. And we've got some big challenges ahead, but some exciting times ahead as well. So it's again, I'll just say thank you, Dennis, for including me here today. It's been an honor and privilege to work with you over these many years, and I look forward to continuing to do so, just in a different capacity.
same here, Tom. Same here. And to amplify what you said, exactly on point. There's we are at a point where we need people to get engaged, and sitting back and letting others do the heavy lifting is that time's come and gone. We all need to recognize that we have a role to play in advancing the profession, advancing the state of our society, to building a system of infrastructure system that supports economic growth, improves the quality of life, and is sustainable, resilient, robust, economically justifiable, and all those other buzzwords we've been using. But they're not buzzwords. They're the goals. They're the guidelines. They're the criteria that we're trying to meet. So again, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for sharing. It's always fun. I think it's been enlightening, and I challenge the people to listening to recognize the importance of being part of a society like ASCE, because it's that networking, it's that support, it's that leadership opportunity that the society provides that will be important to the individual, both personally and professionally. So, with that, folks, I appreciate your time with us. I hope, as always, I leave you with the same challenge as always, and that is that the time you've invested in listening to this conversation pays dividends. That you've taken something away from this conversation that enriches your life, makes you a better professional, and allows you to go forth and be a change agent, to be impactful, to do great things. And with that, until the next time, be safe, take care.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks, everyone.